Thank you very much. Please take a seat. Casey's on a timeline. Well, he said you have 7 minutes. I said I'll be done in 50. He said okay.
Very much.
So first, I have a lot of thank yous, and please bear with me because they're important. And if I miss anybody or down anywhere, just know that Casey Crane only gave me, like I told you, 6 or 7 minutes. But I'm trying to get us in as much. First, I want to just thank Cranes. I don't know how you guys vote on this or determine who's in the Hall of Fame or any of that stuff, but I could tell you that we weren't going to be raising a Cavs championship this year, so I'm very excited about this. And Andre Drummond will be in a few minutes to talk about it. Okay? So I'd like to just thank Keith and Casey Crane for this award, and also, of course, the energy of Cranes and somewhat one of the energy. I don't know what you call her, energy spark plug of all of downtown Detroit, Mary Kramer. I'd like to thank her. And, we call June 1st to September 30th Mary season. So Mary Kramer season hasn't started yet. But believe me, when it starts, you hear from her every day. And that thing that she's put together virtually by herself, the homecoming, is responsible for its own economy almost. I could tell you there's probably over $1 billion of investment that have come out of those meetings and those relationships, and it's still going. Maybe she can give you exact numbers, but I just did the back of a napkin. I mean, it's amazing what happens when you put people together who want to get things done and have the motivation to do so. I think Mary and Cranes have proved that over and over again. So thank you all, much appreciation. When somebody gets an award like this one, obviously there's a whole organization behind them, and the award is really for everybody, not just for the guy who happens to be the leader of the food chain. Jay Farner was interviewed in the Cranes article not too long ago, maybe a few days back, about how things are going to go because I've been out due to my illness. And he responded back with nothing but culture. He said, culture, culture, culture. If everybody knows your culture and all the people who are leading it in the organization clearly know it, then they can see the world through the prism of your philosophy and make decisions, make priorities, take the actions, and conduct the behaviors that are in line with that culture. That's why it's so important. A lot of times people say, I know you pound the table on culture all the time, but why is it so important? Well, it's so important because if every single human being who works for you, whether you're a 20-person company, a 50-person, a 200-person, or 20,000 plus in Detroit like us, it doesn't really matter because culture drives all that stuff. You got to make sure that everybody knows what basis to make decisions, what basis to make their priorities, and what basis to take action, behaviors, and implement their ideas. I mean, without having a culture to do that, then it's just basically shooting darts in the dark. And I've made a mistake in the past of thinking that everybody should know, they should just know that. Well, they don't know it unless you're pounding the table on it and you're exhibiting the attributes of the culture of your organization the way you want them. And so are your other senior leaders. And we talk about this all the time. In the last few days, there's been a thing we've been talking about, that a leader's job is not to create more followers. A leader's job is to create more leaders. And I think we had the honor of doing that in our family of companies, which is why it can continue in my absence, which I'm hoping isn't going to be too long, but it was long enough already to have a baby. It's been 9 months. But don't look at me like that, because I have 5 of mine already here tonight. They're all here, and so is my wife, Jennifer. I want to thank all of them for all their patience, and my wife for everything. Thank you. That next generation, they're going to be way tougher than me. So I'm looking forward to that day. These guys they're nibbling at the bit, trying to get in here, talking all kinds of deals. We did get new pens. One of my son has a what do you call this? What do you call it? Come on, man. Tchotchke is more of a foreign word, right? Promotional items. After 20-something years, he sold us new pens, which I'm happy to see. We had a lot of good things. Quicken Loans had the worst pens in the world. But where are you guys? Raise your hand just for a second. Over there? Okay. And we got one of them at Michigan State. We lost two of them to Ann Arbor. It's been a tragedy in our family. Two of them. And one of them went to New York and came back with a friend today. We're going to probably recruit him. You know, we're going the opposite way now. We recruit people from New York. Got a net ahead of that. So, other thank yous. Just because Quicken Loans itself is still the absolute flagship business of all of our businesses. It's the largest. It's the most profitable. It's the highest revenue. It's got the longest, most coherent leadership team that have been together for an average of like 18 or 19 years each. So I just want to name a few of those guys, because without Quicken Loans and what they do, the rest of it doesn't happen. So I want to just thank some of the people who are there, and if I can find it. Let's see, I think I got it here. See, that's what happens, Casey. When you limit my time, I start mumbling. So Jay Farner, who's the CEO of Quicken Loans, and among another leader who leads people in all areas of the organization, not just Quicken. But Quicken is big enough to lead full-time, believe me. So Jay, where are you? Just stand up for 1 second. Okay. I think he's here with his wife, Wendy. Wendy was a great loan processor at one point, too, till Jay decided to get married to her. And that was it. So we kept them both, though. That was good. And Bill Emerson, longtime CEO and vice chairman of the company. He's around here somewhere. Bob Walters, our CFO. I highly recommend female CFOs. They're more conservative. They're more crystal clear. And this is one that's been our CFO for a long time. Her name is Julie Booth. Julie, you here? While we're on that subject, our Chief Technology Officer from China, Ling Long He, she's been with us for 20 years. And some of the newer ones who've come along, Matt Ryzik, who came, Matt, there we go. And I found out after we traded for Andre Drummond, he was like Andre Drummond's best friend. So, by the way, Arn Tellem turned 66 years old today. Happy birthday, Arn. Some people at Bedrock, there's been some shift over there, but there's been guys like Matt Cullen and Mark Duncanson who were heavily involved in our gaming operation before we got out of that business and did a great job. They are now moved over to Bedrock as chairman and CEO, I believe, or CEO and president, two of those big titles. And there's some other great people here from Bedrock, too, who have a million things going on at one time, and somehow they get it all done. Melissa Dittmer, our chief architect and designer, is here. Tony Saunders is also here from the Rock Holdings, or the Rock, sort of our home office. That's one we got from the county. Thank you, Warren. We got him in the whole jail swap deal. They threw in Tony Saunders as a second-round pick. It's fun going to a meeting with somebody on the other side, and you're so impressed by them. And I remember the day we walked in, and Tony Saunders was just talking circles around us on the bond market. So I said, we got to hire that guy one day. Worked out nice. Okay. Then on the community side and the Gilbert Foundation side, which is a foundation my wife and myself launched about 2 years back. Joyce Keller, Yuri Kim, Corey Tincher, and Laura Graneman. I mean, we're doing some great stuff in Detroit, in the communities and neighborhoods and stuff, because these dedicated leaders have figured out the best things they could do. I mean, just as a couple examples, 60,000 plus people are not paying property tax in Detroit. They're getting their property tax waived illegally, but they had no idea they could do it. So we were kind enough to go door to door and give them the forms and help them do it. And I will tell you that Mike Duggan's not that happy with us about it, because he had that money already earmarked for something. Just kidding, Mike. There's a bunch of other stuff that we do on the community side. We're going to leave some booklets outside, I think. And we are going to leave about 150 ISMS books if you guys want them, or for the people that want them. Normally $19.99 plus shipping and handling, free to you. Also, I missed one person, Hannah Mae Merton, who's here, who helped me get everything ready for this thing, and also is a project manager at Bedrock, has done a great job. So these are just a handful of the great people. When I tell you that our business is we're in the people recruiting and talent business. We're not in any other business. It's all about people. You guys all know that. You're all mostly in business here. But you can't spend enough time finding, recruiting, and developing your leaders. Let's see. I think I got all those guys. Okay, good. So interestingly enough, and I don't know if somebody mentioned it up here earlier, but I believe it was the winter of 2007, I received one of these Cranes Awards, and I did a slideshow. So we went back and looked at the slideshow, and we have a couple slides to show you. At that time, I thought that I actually ended up with on the third or fourth slide, said Detroit needs to not declare financial bankruptcy, we need to declare cultural bankruptcy. Because I took an inventory of the assets and the liabilities at the time. Again, one man's view. There we go, okay. So you can see the assets at the time are the same assets as we have now. The great work ethic, trapped intellect in some of the big organizations who had great IP they wanted to somehow turn into business, but we didn't have the infrastructure or the ecosystem to make that happen. With great universities. Liabilities, I think I heard a little bit of it by some of the nominees here today who spoke. One of you guys said something like there wasn't the infrastructure or the ecosystem to get something done at the time. You hear that all the time about Detroit, but now it's here. So I was just looking at back in 2007, 12 years back. We were old economy dependent, which is nothing wrong with having industrial America as part of your economy, but you probably don't want to have a city in an area that just completely relies on that, because it's typically not the fastest growth of the industries in the world and the country. I thought we had a lack of big thinking. We had very little risk taking. When Detroit actually came from the entrepreneurial side of the fence in the early days, but then it got into sort of a next stage of being very, very close to the vest and very little risk taking from people. People talk to us all the time and say, isn't that risk taking, buying all those buildings? Our view of it is, first of all, we had a lot of employees to fill up some of them. So that takes away some of the risk, if you know what I mean. And number two is, I don't know how you can go bad buying buildings at a certain price when rent's at a certain price. And we're not in it for chasing money anyway. We're in it to achieve the dream and our mission, which all gets implemented by culture and by great leaders. Do I have to cue you to turn the page, or do I just do it? This is the positive slide? Okay. So now I just wanted to take an inventory 12 and a half years later here in 2020. The liabilities are way less and the assets are way more, that's for sure. Some of this is like it's not the hardware, but it's the software, if you will. We not only have muscle thinking, we've got brain thinking. Almost every new business that comes into the city has some form of a technology or a new economy bent to it. It's very little or very rare. Although we have had big announcements from Chrysler and a few others, but I will say that complementing both, like I think Mike Duggan realizes, and I think the council realizes, and I think Warren Evans realizes, as well as others, that if you diversify the economy with both new and old economy companies, then it's going to be hard to lose, and it will be hard to lose. That's why we like to say we're at the intersection of muscles and brains. Detroit is the perfect intersection. It's got all the old school people who built things with muscle, and still do, and now the brain side is catching up. So I have 2 or 3 examples of that I just wanted to give you that hit me this year and how important it is. Okay, this would have been an alternative universe. Had that universe we were all on, traveling from 2010, 11, 12, 13. Now, here's the threshold question. How does a half-built county jail that was 2,200 beds, was scheduled for 2,200 beds, at the foot of downtown, which in essence acts as a de facto welcome center? You know how many cars get off at 375 in that exit every day? 50,000. 50,000 times 365 is about 18 million cars a year. So 18 million eyeballs, or times 2 maybe. 36 million eyeballs annually would have gotten to see that. And so how does that turn from that? What has to happen from that to go to not only not happening in a new jail or a criminal justice system being built somewhere else, to becoming now the potential graduate school of engineering or technology for one of the top 2 universities in Michigan? How does that happen? The way it happens is that people have relationships and they pick up the phone and they start meeting in rooms. Like, we had to meet with Warren Evans numerous times and county folks numerous times, and of course bringing in Mike Duggan and people from the city of Detroit and some people from Lansing. They're always involved in something related to this size of a project, so spend time there. We have to spend time with other business leaders, with the community that lives around there and around the new jail site, which is at 94, and they want to change Warren Avenue to Warren Evans Avenue. That's my vote. You already got half the sign up. So do we have that video this is the fast video? This is how you build a $520 million jail in about 30 seconds. Barton Mallow, another Detroit area-based construction company we use often, a big partner of ours, are the lead GC in this one. So the second part of it, how does it turn into University of Michigan Graduate School in the heart of downtown Detroit? There's a gentleman, I think, from the Miami Dolphins that's going to be interviewed here shortly by Casey Crane. He'll explain how that happened. But those of you who've been around here a long time know this is true. It wasn't a city in the old days where you could just pick up the phone, talk to the mayor, talk to the county leader, talk to the governor, and talk about a big project and go visit them and get everybody excited on the same page very quickly. And things have changed quite dramatically in this time frame. I mean, if you think about all the things that just happened, just keep name off one by one and spend 20 minutes talking about each one, which I won't do. So here's one that we got wind of. So we got wind of that Waymo was in town. That's Google's, Google's car company, right? Battery car company. They were looking around the area, and we got wind of it, and we jumped in. We talked to David Dowk over at American Axle. We talked to the county. We talked to the city. We talked to Waymo, and we have a lot of connections with Google because we're probably their 5th largest advertiser. And so we got into Google pretty fast, and all of a sudden they're going to be moving to downtown Detroit now on the site of American Axle. And I don't know about you guys, but for me it's kind of embarrassing if you're going to have a Google car company come to Detroit and have it not be in Detroit, So everybody jumped in, everybody got on the same page real quick. And we were lobbying Google, the mayor was lobbying everybody. And that's the way things happen. I know I'm mumbling a little bit here, but what I'm trying to get the flavor I'm trying to get is Detroit is just a much tighter city relationship-wise than it's ever been, at least that I've noticed. And only that's the kind of environment that great things will happen. I mean, somebody was up here too mentioned the network effect, that there wasn't so much of a network effect in Detroit at the time or something, which is probably true. We got to keep using our own assets, which are human beings. And every human being walks around, they're like a walking server. That's how I view it. So we have, I don't know how many servers we have, computer servers, thousands, but we have about 30,000 team members across the businesses that each have a tremendous amount of information and connections inside of them. The challenge becomes, how do you cultivate all that? It's not that easy to do. There's some technology you can buy that helps with it. You can do a little bit on LinkedIn, but that's not going to be the be-all to end-all, even though they have 80,000 feet in downtown Detroit right now. So every single day that I go forward, I just realize how important relationships are, and some of these things that look like they're just a hello to somebody could turn into a big deal because they happen to mention something to you that really piques your interest. I just think we got to continue down that mind frame and culture of reaching out, of helping each other. Like there was a groundswell that came up, and I'd met with a few people earlier this year or later last year about the car insurance, the medical car insurance issue in Detroit. So how can we get involved in that? We just all sat back and said, well, we've got our people in Lansing, let's talk to both sides, let's talk to the governor, let's see what we can do. And so we did it, and we feel good about it. It doesn't mean it will accrue to any kind of dollars or cents on our personal or corporate financial statements. It won't. But we want to do it because it's just what's best for this city of Detroit. That's the lens we look through when we decide, how do we invest any of our assets? Our capital, our human capital, our time, our energy. Well, how much does it help the city of Detroit, and what will that do for it in 5 and 10 years? Or even longer? And you can see that things take slow, but then all of a sudden they get done. You drive by a construction site every day, you go, what in the hell are these people doing? They're not doing anything. And then all of a sudden, a year later, there's a building there. It's hard to explain, but same thing with any of these deals. Sometimes these deals go on and on. I just think we need more deal makers in Detroit. If you're a young person, learn how to become a deal maker. 100 companies will hire you tomorrow. So business development guys, things like that. Things are complicated. This stuff is not easy. It's hard. And so when we go along the statement of creating more leaders, that's how you create more leaders. Teach them your deal-making skills. Teach them how to get to somebody for whatever else, for something they may need. Who do you talk to about space? Who do you talk to about the government side of it? Who do you talk to about the financing side of it? I think we got miles to go as far as how we can help each other. I mean, our door is always open for anybody who's looking for a direction to go anywhere. So please note that.